Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. Dr. Afzal is here, and in our last lecture we discusses the classes and objects. Today we will go a bit further, but before starting the new lecture, let's start to revise what we actually covered in object and classes. We discussed that before creating any object, if we have one selected that, for example, in the university system, these are the some objects which are becoming a part of our university application because all of them have some functionalities. Some functionalities will be performed by the teachers, and student is responsible for some of the responsibilities, activities, and admin also has some responsibility to perform in that particular university application. So before directly jumping towards the object to define the object, first we create a design for that. First we create a class for that. Let's take the exact example in our daily life. When we construct any house, uh, before constructing the house or starting to construct the house, what we do in our daily life, we need a design for that, we need a blueprint for that. And once the blueprint is finalized, once the design is finalized, when it is approved by all the bodies, after that we start the construction of the house, and that house looks exactly the same as it was designed on the blueprint. Exactly, we do the same in the object-oriented programming. Then once we created or accepted one object as a part of any software, so before creating that object, we create a design for that, we create any rules, regulations for that what type of members we are going to take, what type of functionalities we are going to take. After agreeing, after designing that, we go towards the constructions of the class. So for example, here you can see what do we need in our class. We need a class name. We need the attributes which are actually a data members, and we also need the functionalities. And these are the functionality, the student has a functionality. This is the reason we are including that in our application. And you can say, for example, this is the example of the student. We have created one class, we have clearly defined that what type of attributes we will need, what type of functions we will need. And after defining the class, we created objects for that. For example, this is the object number 1, this is object number 2, and this is the object number 3. Because the class is students, we are creating object a student data against it. For example, this is a Sarah, and Sarah is getting the same data members as we have defined over here. The second student is Ali, and in the Ali we are getting the same data as we defined in the class. And in the third student, you can see we are also getting the same data as we have defined over here in our class. So let's take another example. We have decided on the student, we agreed on the attributes, we agreed on the functions. When all these things are done, then we code that. We use the class keyword, the student is a class name, these are the data members which are taken from here, and these are the functions. Currently we have included under one functions, and this was also decided during the creation of that class. So once the class is decided, then we create the objects, we start storing the student data, as you can see over here. For that we need any program. For example, this is a class program, and to create the student, for that we go in the main and we create objects like that, student Sarah. So student is already recognized because we have created a student class over here, so student is recognized over here. So after that we create any object, and against that objects we store the data. So in a short words, you can say that class is actually a design, it is actually a blueprint, it is, you can say, a container, or you can say that it is only instruction that how the object will look like. Class is a definition of the object, but in real world class is not going to get any space in the memory. The object is the instant of any particular class, so actually the object is going to take space in the memory instead of the class. So class is a virtual, it is just like a definition, not going to store or not going to get any space in the memory. The object is going to get any space in the memory. So hopefully you understand everything up to that. So you understand what is the difference between object-oriented programming and procedural programming, and why do we go towards object-oriented programming from the procedural programming. And as per our last lecture, we have also covered the object and classes, so you know exactly what are object and classes and how can we code them. And last time when we started the coding, I write one thing over here. I write the one keyword, a public. You can see it here also. This is the keyword public. And I told you that we will discuss it later on. So now we are going today to discuss the keyword public. What actually is it? What is its purpose? And why do we need it? We are not going to cover the encapsulation completely, but when we started with that course in the start of the lecture, in the first lecture, we discussed that there are some pillars, there are some rules, regulations which we will apply an object and the classes. And in that pillar, one pillar, the most important pillar, and which I wrote it the first at the top, that was encapsulation. Sorry for all that. So what is actually encapsulation? As we discussed earlier, that encapsulation means that we are putting some data into capsules. We are going to hide some of our data. That you can say that some of the data will be available to all the world, they can see it, they can access it, but some of our data will not be available to outside of the world, and they will not be able to access it. To connect it with our daily life, uh, we sometimes protect our data or sometimes share our data. We can share our name, we can share our addresses in the universities which we are studying. We keep all these information public, and we don't care if somebody know about that. But there are some information, for example our phone number, our email, our home addresses. There are some sort of information about which we are bit you can say restricted, and we don't want to share all these information outside of the world, so we keep them all these information protected or private. So the object oriented, as it is behaving exactly the same as we do in our natural life, we will hide some of our data, and we will show some of our data to every people, to every person outside of the world. So how can we do that? For that we use actually the access specifier. For example, if this is a class, in that class we have some attributes and we also have some functionality, then we will apply an access specifier on it. Access specifier on it means that these data are restricted, that some of the data will be available to everyone, but some of the data will be restricted and nobody will be able to access that data, and we are going to do the same for on that data. So there are three type of access specified. For example, the first one you can see is the public, the second one is the protected, and the third one is a private. So going toward public means that you are getting the accessibility. If you are on the public, you get accessibility to all the data members which are public. But if you go from public to private, it means that you are putting the restriction and the data will not be available to the outside the world. So from public to private, as you go to the new stage, you put a new restriction on that this data will not be available to the people outside of the particular world. But if you go from private to the public, it means that you are providing the accessibility, you are easing the restriction, and you are providing access to the outside of the world. So how it works: if any data member is public, it means that anyone in that program can access it. They can change their data, they can access their values. But if the data is private, no one outside of the class will be able to access that data. You will exactly understand it when once we code it, but you should keep in mind that what actually private world works. Protected, we haven't yet studied the inheritance. We haven't yet studied the inheritance, but this is related to the inheritance, which means that the data will be available only to the children classes, because we are studying the object-oriented programming, and we exactly know that we have to study the inheritance. We will inherit from one class from another class. So the protected members are only available to the children classes. Now this is our student class. We have designed that student class. This is a student name, and you can see these are the attributes and these are the function. So in that program, in that code, you can see that I have written the name as a public, and you can see here, if you match with the color, that it is available outside of the world, so anybody can access that. And you can see the protected color. Protected color means that if there are any child class, if there are any derived class, then in the derived class we can access that data. And the private, as the word suggests, these are the private, and we can't access them outside of the world because these are protected, these are the private. So these are the actually access specifier: public, private, and protected. These are the actually tools which are used in encapsulation to protect our data from outside of the world and give them very limited access. Now you have theoretically idea what actually the access specifier was. We should go towards the coding now, and we should observe how actually works. First, I'm going to write any program. I'm writing the exactly same program as we were discussing here. Exactly the same program, exactly same class as student. I will have a public, protected, and private data members, name, roll number, and grade, and then we will try to access that from the class and outside of the class. So let's check that. I'm going to write one class student, and you already know that class is a keyword, student is a class name, and these brackets shows the scope of the class. So you can see that the scope of the class starts from that bracket and it and on that bracket. So in that body we will define our class as we have written over here. We will have some data members and we will have some functions also. So I'm using a keyword public. So this is the exact syntax which you have to write. The public means that any data members which you are writing here will be public, and in the public I have some data. For example, I have written over the name here, so the name will be string name. I also have some private data members, and I want to write that at the start. because I want to keep all the function public. I want to access them outside of the world, so I want to keep them public. So in the private I have some data members. For example, in my case the roll number is private. The roll number is private, and I also have one other data members which is protected, and this was, I think, grade, and I have keep the grade as protected, and the third one is a name, and we keep the name public. So you can exactly see that it is exactly according to our definition, that we have some public data members, we have some private data members, and we also have some protected data members, and we have coded the same. Now in the class student we have some private data members, we have some protected data members, and we also have some public data members. As we discussed earlier, that we will also have some function over here, and I'm intentionally keeping all the function public. We can also keep them private or protected also, but I'm intentionally going to keep all the function public. So my first function is void show, because we want to show some data over here. So this is the show function, and in that show function, if we want to show some sort of data, currently I'm not providing anybody to that. We will check later on if we need it to do something over here. So now I'm going towards the main, and in the main I'm creating one object student as one. So we have created one object as one which belong to the students. We have already defined the student class, so it is recognizable in the main can recognize that as a class, and for that class we have created as one as a object. So our first task is that as1 dot against as1, I want to show some data, I want to set some data, and I'm going to set the value of name. For example, I'm providing some data which is ABC, and here too I want to show some function see out that data, display that data, name and exact variable name, and the exact variable name is name, and after that handle to keep it on the next line. I will have the exact statement for the other data member also. We have two other data members. The second one is, for example, roll number, and the exact variable name for that is, this should be roll number. I have one roll number over here, and we also have one third data member. That one is grade, and the exact data member is grade. So we are also displaying that data in our class also. And after writing the setting that data, what I'm going to do, against s1 I want to call the show function. This is the show function which we have written over here, and this is the public, so hopefully that will be available over here. You can again check the program that we have one student class, we have three data members over here, private, protected and public. We have also one function with student with name show, and in that show we are displaying some data members. And in the main you can see that I have created as one object, student object, and I'm just setting its one value, name, and after setting that value I'm calling the function show to display the value that either it is working or not. So what do we know about that? That actually the public specifier will be available to everyone, everywhere, from where you want to access it. As you can see over here that if your data members are public. For example, the A and B is public, then then the yellow color shows that it is accessible. If they belong from A, then these variable, this data members is also accessible in the A. And if we derived any child class from class A, then they will also be accessible from the child class too. And if we have any third class B, then these data members will also be accessible from the B also. And you should keep in mind the main function where we have created the object of the classes. This is always considered a third class. So in that scenario, because we are currently dealing with the public classes, public data members, so they will be accessible in the same class, they will also be accessible in the child class, they should also be accessible in the third class, in our case in the main class. So main is considered as a third class, so these are public, the name is public data member, so this should be accessible over here. So let's check, we run it. So you can see that we have successfully set the value of name, and this was public, so we were able to set that value. I write one comment here so that you can recognize it. Public is available, or you can say accessible, from the third class. Main is always considered as a third class. So now I'm going to access s1 dot for example roll number, and to that roll number I want to provide some no roll number, for example BS001. This is the roll number. So this is actually a try to access a private data member, and you can see over here that the roll number is actually a private data member. It's coming under the private, so it is a private data member. According to the definition, we shouldn't access that because private is not accessible to outside world. You can see over here. So if you have a private data member, as we have A and B over here, so these colors shows that you can access these data members within the class scope. Within the class scope here means that from that bracket which is starting of the class, and this bracket shows the end of the class, so within that scope, within the class, you can access it, otherwise you will not be able to access it. You can see that the private data members are not accessible in the children classes. You can see that these are the white colors, only this color shows that the data members are accessible. And you can also show that, you can also see over here that it is also not accessible in the third class also. And in that case, as I earlier discussed, that main is also considered as a third class. And what I'm trying over here, that s1 against s1 object, I'm calling the roll number, which is actually a private. So let's see what happened. So you can see there is an error, roll number is private. So the system also highlighted it that roll number is private. So we can write one comment here, this is our understanding from running this program, that private data members are not accessible, or you can say available in the third class. This is our understanding, that we are not able to access the private data member also. Now we are going to try in other access specifier, which is actually protected. and our protected data member is grade, and we will try to access the grade and see what is the behavior that can we access it or not. I'm putting that in the comment because we are not able to access it. Grade, and in that grade I provide some grade over here and that one. So according to the protected data members definitions, if any data is protected, then it is available to A and B, because every type of data members are available in the same class. If they are private too, they are available in the primary class. But the difference is, if they are protected, you can also access these data members from the child class also. This is a difference with respect to the private, that private data members is only available in the parent class and they are not available in the child class. But in the protected, you can see that all the protected data members are also available in the child classes, but they are not available in the third classes. So if you want to connect that with real life, then you can see that we have relationship, we have friends, then there are some sort of information which we want to share with our friends or our family member, but we also expect that these information will not be shared with the third person. So you can see over here that this is actually a relationship circle. This is a friendship circle where the data is shared with the close one. Only the children are able to access the protected data member. So all the other data members, so all the other classes are not able to access that data. So in that case, because grade is a protected and main is always considered as a third class, main is not a part of that class, main is also not a derived class, so we will not be able to access that data, we will not be able to set that data. So let's check the behavior and update our understanding what we are learning. So you can see over here that they are writing that string student grade is protected. So our new understanding is that we are also not able to get the protected data member. Protected data members are not available, you can see accessible outside of the in the third class, in the third class. Okay, so these are our understanding about the third class, that we are able to access the private data member. We are only able to access the private data members, but we are not able to access the private data members and protected data members. So let's do in another activity. We just discussed that within the class we can access the private and protected data members. So what we can do, for example, I can write a void function and the function name is set values, and in that set values I want to set some values. What type of data? For example, name is private over here, but private can be accessible in the same class, and to the name is also public. I should go towards the private, and the private is roll number. Okay, so this is actually a roll number because I'm in the same class, so I can assign some roll number to it. So you need to understand it. Basically, I am in the same class student, and in the same class what I am doing, that I'm using one function to set the values of roll number. So according to the protected rules, this function would be able to set the data because you can access the private data members within the same class. So within the same class we are going to set the values. There is another definition too, which is the definition of the private. And private means that if some data members are functions are public, then we can access them outside of the class. So here is a twist. This function is public. This is coming under public. So we can access that function, and that function is able to access the private data members. So it looked like that for example, there is any organization, for example any examination department, and you want to you have some assignment there, you have some task over there, but you are worried, you don't know anybody there who can do your assignment. You want to get the result sheet, and the person who was responsible to issue the result sheet, you don't know them. But after that, you think that there is another person who is my friend. This person know about you, and that person work within the same building. So this is the person, you also know him, and that person know the person who is dealing your result card. So exactly you can say this is a function which is public, so outside the world can access that function. And because this function is within the body, within the scope of the student, so that function have access to the roll number too. So this should be able to access the roll number. So let's check either it is working or not. Along with show, now I will call as one dot set values, because I have written that function, because this function is public, so I should be able to access the public function. And because this function is public over here, but it is within the scope of the class, so it should be able to access the student, you can say the private data member. So let's check either it is setting the value for roll number or not. So now you can see that the name is all, because this was a public, so we have already set the value for B. Roll number was private. So by using the public function, set the function which we have written to set the values, setter function, it is also able to set the value for private too. So this is our understanding. So here we can see that private data members are available, accessible within the same class. So let's do another thing. I'm going to do another thing. The next thing is we also have one protected data member, that is grade. Let's check, can we set the grade value to, I'm assigning some value to the grade, for example A, and let's check should it work or not. But first we should go toward the protected slide, and here you can see that protected data members is available in the same class, it is also available in the child class. So as per definition, we should be able to set that values. Let's check it. So now you can see that we have also set the value for A also. So we can write over here that protected data members are available, accessible in the same classes. So you can have a question in your mind that if this data is private and we are able to set that data from the third class, as you can see that I use that function to set the value of private data members. So if we can set the value of the private from the third class, then why do we are going to keep them private? Why not keeping them public? What is the difference between the public and private too? So if you are thinking so, this is a very good question. The answer is, for example, you have a bank account and you have some balance over there, for example 50k, and you want to withdraw that money. So what is the option to withdraw that money? Can you go directly to the treasury to get all the amount you want from there? In that case, there will be no record update, there is no procedure over there, there is no authentication, there are no some condition to check either do you have a balance or not. If you are doing like that, it means that it is a public, but it is not a public. What you do, you go to the ATM, you insert the ATM. After inserting the ATM verify you that the card is correct, your code is correct, it authenticate you. After that, after the authentication, it asks you to withdraw the money, and when you enter the money, after that it checks that either do you have a balance or not. If you have a balance, then it gives you the cash, and after providing you the cash, it updates the account. So exactly, we keep the data members that no one can directly access it, though we have any setter value, any setter functionalities to set that values. But when these functions set the value from any private data members, they will update all the records which are needed. So this is the basic difference between the private and public data members. So this was a today class. We discussed the access specifier, particularly access specifier, as we discussed and observed that they are actually controlling that what data should be shown publicly to the people and what shouldn't be shown to publicly to the people. And I will revise it once again for your understanding that what actually a public could access specifier works. So we have one class when we defined one class. For that class we have some data members, we also have some functionality for that, but we declare some data members are function as a public, we declare some as a private, and we declare some data members and function as a private. The reason for declaring them as a public, protected, or private, that we are actually controlling the access. We are controlling that who will be able to access that members and who are not able to access that data members. So we also observed in our code, in our example, that the data which was public, that data members were accessible from anywhere. We access that from the same data members to same class too. We also access that from the third class too. The second one is private, and we observed in the code that that data is only available in the same class, and when you access them from the second, third class, these data is not available outside from the main class. And we just protected see the protected because we haven't studied the inheritance now. We just check its behavior in the parent class, in the main class, and in the main function. So it is also available in the parent class. We haven't yet checked that in the children classes. though it will be available in the children classes also. And from the main, which is considered as a third class, we observed that that was not available in the third class. And after that, this is the same code which we coded, and we observed the same things as we discussed over here. So I think the access specifier and encapsulation are easy. You can understand it, and you can understand the meaning, that how actually public, private, and protected data member works. Public data member is available everywhere, either you want to access it from the parent class, from the children classes, or from any third class. But private data members are available only in the parent class, in the class in which these data members are defined. They are not available in the child classes. They are also not available in the third classes. In the protected case, they are available in the parent class, as it is the same practice for every data members. They are also available in the child class, but not accessible in the third classes. So, and we observe the same thing in our code too. So thank you so much.